Hello, welcome to another edition of 010 Podcast. I'm Andy. I'm here with Dr. Josie, of course, and today we're visiting with Dr. Maria Dwyer, um, biological dentist. Is that your actual title?
Yes, I will claim that one.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Um, so let's just jump right in, Dr. Maria. Tell us what does that mean? What does biological dentist mean?
Good question. That's a question that I get, most often, and I just have to think of the story when I was working with my marketing team to develop, kind of my brand and my tagline. This was an area that they were really persistent on in trying to get me to change. The term biological dentistry. They just thought that the term biological, it made them think of like, I don't know, like biological warfare. I mean, it's like not really great images come to your mind, at least their minds when they thought biological. So they really were trying to lean on me to change it to some labels or terms that people might be more familiar with, like they suggested natural, right?
Mhm.
And I actually have I will answer your question to what biological means, I promise. But, um, you know, the word, when people use the word natural, because you have the word biological, but then you have all these other words that, you can maybe use interchangeably. And they all kind of overlap, like functional dentistry or integrative dentistry or biological dentistry or holistic dentistry, or, natural dentistry is the only one of all those I just mentioned that really just kind of like, it just kind of gets under my nerves because there is really nothing natural about dentistry. I mean, there's just not. It's a profession that relies on, cutting your natural living body and then filling it with just, artificial materials and chemicals. There's nothing natural about dentistry. So I really, really try hard to stay away from that. And when I'm called a natural dentist, I do tend to correct people because that's the one distinction I want to make is that, I'm not claiming to be a natural dentist. I don't really believe there is such a thing, because the truth of the matter is we use a lot of chemicals in our products in order just to restore a simple filling, but the word biological really means, at least to me, and you might get a different answer if you ask a different biological dentist, but in my world and the way I practice it is I really try hard to connect the dots between, the mouth, and the health of the mouth and the current state of the mouth, and also the care of the mouth. So, like, the services I provide, I try to connect all of that to the rest of the body so that I just try to bring awareness to the fact that what I do specifically, so the procedures and the materials that I use and place in people's mouths do have the potential to impact the rest of the body either in a good way, or, unfortunately, in a really negative way. And so, with that mindset and with that respect of, um, I really pride myself in, my material selection, in choosing materials that, are least toxic, right? Knowing that, what I'm putting in people's mouths are plastics and metals and, bonding agents that are chemicals, and topical agent and anesthetic. It's all chemicals. And what we know about people is that, some people can handle certain chemicals okay, and then you got, your next door neighbor who might not handle that same chemical in the exact same way because our biochemistry in our bodies is so uniquely different. And so I try to honor, those individual differences, and I really try to put a lot of thought and intention in my treatment planning, and both on how I do it and what I use to do it so that the impact on the body, is just the least negative as possible, the least negative. The best dental care is no dental care. I'm just going to say that. And so, but sometimes we have to do it, right? Sometimes we have to do the filling or the crown. And so I'm going to do it in a manner that's going to not create more body burden for that individual, but hopefully try to even lessen some of that body burden. And so it's just connecting the dots between oral care and systemic care. And it's, it's more of a holistic approach, if you will. And I really, really love putting on my, I don't know, like the problem solver cap when I've got a lot of patients who are in my chair and they're just not certain why they're dealing with this disease or dysfunction in the first place. It's like, I'm here to help you and I'll fix the decay and I'll, restore the tooth. But really, we need to spend as much time or more talking about how you got here in the first place. What are some of the things that you're doing or not doing that brought on this disease or dysfunction, and we got to spend a lot of our time there trying to figure that out because the name of my practice being root cause dentistry, I just have this passion in trying to figure out what is the root cause of your issue. Is it from the gut? Is it a gut dysbiosis that's affecting your oral microbiome, and or vice versa? Because we know the two are intricately connected. And so we talk about nutrition, and we talk about all of that because they're all just different pieces of the same puzzle, really.
Totally.
Mhm.
Wow, that's a lot.
That is a
Yeah,
lot.
that was a long answer. I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect. It's perfect. That's what we want. That's a lot. Like, where do you, Josie, is your mind going? Where do you have a question right off the bat? I've got a
Sure.
lot, but
Yeah, I do. Same.
yeah.
So I guess the biggest, like right now coming to my brain was when I was younger, I had a lot of cavities when I was younger. And they told me it was because of our well water. We live on a ranch out here. So they had
Mhm.
said that we didn't have enough fluoride, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, I've had a lot of dental work. We'll just say that in my life. Mercury fillings, like all the things.
Mhm.
My one question I have is, what do you find that does to the microbiome in your mouth when you have got quite a bit? I've had, quite a bit of work done on your mouth, and then and no support. Probably, like, I didn't have we didn't know what probiotics were when I was a kid. Like we didn't do any of that. So have you seen like a correlation between maybe metals and chemicals to like the flora of your tongue and mouth?
It's a great question. Leave it to you to ask a question I've never been asked before. So,
Oh no. Sorry.
because if I think I'm understanding your question correctly, you're asking what is the impact of dental care, of previous dental care, previous dental surgeries, and any materials that are placed in the mouth on what is that impact on the oral microbiome? I just want to clarify your question.
Yeah, I am curious on that.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any studies pertaining to that specifically. So I don't know whether you throw in a composite, plastic filling versus an amalgam filling, what impact those filling materials have specifically on the bugs. Um, I don't know, just thinking through this, in real time here, being on the spot, I'm not sure if, you know, if if the procedures and the restorations and the restorative material would have such an impact on the oral microbiome. To me, it's just more of like, it's not, so that's kind of like a one and done thing, right? It's like I had this condition and then I had this procedure and this happened. And that was, obviously several years ago. I think, more of an impact in the microbiome is just like the day in, day out. What are you doing in the morning? What are you doing in the afternoon? How are you sleeping at night? What are you putting in your body, around the clock? That's going to have, of course, the biggest impact on the oral microbiome. But I don't even know. I mean, I'm just curious now. And as soon as we get off this Zoom, probably that'll be my weekend homework is like, is there any impact on dental care, specifically restorative material, on the oral microbiome? And the answer to that is I don't know. But I think the bigger question is we just know that the daily repetitive things that we do day in and day out have of course, the biggest impact on that. So I think that's
Like, give an example of what are the things that negative impact that we do daily, and what we could do differently.
sure. So, a lot of the education I try to give my patients around that question really is specific to like frequency of eating, because we know that every time we eat or drink, right, anything other than water, which is pretty pH neutral, we get a drop in pH. So, you know, the oral cavity becomes more acidic. So if we're waking up in the morning and we're having just like I don't know, we go out in the kitchen to grab our coffee, but, you know, we just have a few bites of the berries on the counter, that, you know, are high in sugar, but that's going to spike this drop in pH. And so we're going to have this acidic oral environment, whether it's one bite or two, we see that drop. And then it stays acidic for several hours before it slowly starts to come back up. And then maybe around that time, you've had your coffee and now you're maybe ready for, you know, breakfast, or maybe it's the second snack of the morning, you know, whatever it is. But people who tend to be more of like those little light grazers, where they're just like going to have a few crackers here, maybe a few berries here, and then they're going to have maybe, you know, a little bit of yogurt here. It's the frequency of eating and or drinking that causes the most damage to the oral microbiome, because then the oral environment stays in an acidic state longer. And every time it starts to climb back up to a more pH neutral or alkaline environment, we ingest something else again, and it drops right back down. So most of the day is spent in the acidic environment, and that environment really fosters, you know, the bad bugs. And so then they kind of start to multiply and grow. And one of the little tricks that I you know try to educate my patients on is there are sprays out there that are alkaline sprays, and so I encourage them to get these little bottles of spray and have them on the kitchen counter, or even in your car or your purse or whatever. And after you eat or drink anything other than something that's pH neutral like water, you just do a few sprays of this alkaline spray, and it raises your pH right back up again, so that it doesn't stay suspended in this acidic environment. So, you know, cheating using pH sprays, or just not eating as frequently or drinking as frequently, whether it's, you know, a bubbler or, you know, like any of those drinks, right, are acidic and cause an acidic spike. And so it's just like education. And then we talk a lot, and I know this is becoming more mainstream, but even just 2 years ago, you know, it really wasn't. But I have spent the last 5 years talking to my patients about the importance of nasal breathing. And Andy, we've had conversations about this. It's partly why you're doing your treatment, is because we want to establish nasal breathing and really minimize mouth breathing. And you would be completely amazed at the number of patients that I see. And I know this because when I'm in there with my mirror, and I've got my little mirror in their mouth trying to do a filling, and they keep fogging up my mirror because they're breathing in and out of their mouth, I'm able to spot mouth breathers right away. And some are aware that they do it and some aren't, but that mouth breathing really shifts the microbiome. And unfavorably, of course. And so just being aware of, like, you know, what is our breath like, and just being aware of that. And especially when we're sleeping, when we don't really have control over what our jaw is doing, if it drops open and hangs down due to gravity or positional sleeping, you know, I mean, are we maintaining that lip seal, and are we breathing through our nose at night? Because if we're not, then our mouth is getting dry, and a dry mouth, you know, is unfavorable. And so saliva is our body's #1 protective mechanism against decay. And so if we reduce anything that reduces salivary flow and dries the mouth out, we're going to see an increase in cavities. So it's kind of more of that stuff, you know, that I like to educate patients on. And it's that's that daily functioning, day in and day out, that's really going to affect the, you know, the oral microbiome, not to mention specific foods, right? So, you know, we've all heard of like the alkaline diet and what that looks like. We know we want to keep our whole systemic body more in an alkaline state. So what are some of the things that we can eat in our diet that can help maintain and sustain that higher pH levels?
Well, Josie brought up fluoride. What are your thoughts on fluoride?
Oh, you know,
It's pretty controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen the studies on that, and I can say now, you know, the science is there. It backs up that when you ingest, so like fluoride in the drinking water, when ingested, is not effective against treating tooth decay. It's just not. There are some studies that show some effectiveness when you use fluoride as a topical agent. And so if we're going to apply fluoride topically on our teeth, that does get, like absorbed in our tooth structure through the tubules, and that does have some remineralizing, potential there. But the cool thing now is that we have other remineralizing agents that we can apply topically, that we don't really need fluoride anymore. I mean, fluoride serves like this big of a purpose, and listeners can't see my fingers, but it's a really small amount that fluoride, can really help us. It's like such a small piece of the puzzle. And again, now we have like, hydroxyapatite is a remineralizing agent without the risks of fluoride. So why wouldn't you use that? Because studies show that hydroxyapatite is as good as fluoride in remineralizing enamel. But fluoride has never been that effective when ingested. And fluoride's in everything now. I mean, it's not just about our drinking water. It's in all foods, all products. It's in cereal. I mean, fluoride is in everything. And there's no way we can, because it is in so many things. It's like the dosage and the amount that, individuals are getting, because they're getting it from everywhere. I mean, that's a really hard thing to manage. And so that's why, I mean, I just don't think it has any place in our food or water. So.
I didn't know that fluoride
Now
was
I'm
in
curious.
everything.
Yeah, it's in a lot of things. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Did you know that, Josie?
Well, I knew it in drinks. I didn't think about it in, well, I can see cereals though.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's in that. I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm gonna have to, now
Keep your
I got some
keep your
digging.
eyes open. Yeah, keep your eyes open. So,
I will. I will. Okay, interesting. Interesting. So how did you get into this in the first place? Like what brought you into this industry? Like dentistry in general?
well, dentistry in general was my first career kind of was a flop. Um, Dentistry wasn't my first choice. My degree out of undergrad was in exercise physiology, and I wanted to be. I'm not really sure what I wanted to be, but it was, something in the wellness, industry. I ended up my first job out of college was as a personal trainer in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. I got a job at, like, I think probably the snootiest, exercise club in Eden Prairie. And I tried my hand at being a personal trainer, and I found out quickly it just wasn't for me. So then it kind of left me, wondering what to do. And I was kind of going through all the different healthcare careers. And I thought maybe about being a physician assistant, and I don't know, because I love health and wellness, But then my mom called me one day and she said, "Why don't you be a dentist?" And I said, "Okay, that sounds great. I'll do that." So then I had to pivot. I had to go back and take all the undergrad classes that I did not take to get into dental school. So like I took organic chem and physics and all the hard ones, like, all at the same time. Got into dental school, did 4 more years, and then moved back to Bismarck and joined my dad's practice. And so that's how I got into the field of dentistry. I was never, yeah, to be honest, I was never passionate about teeth. I mean, I don't know. Maybe some people are, I don't know, but like it was never like, oh, I want to like learn about teeth. It just was never that for me. But
Well, it's cool how you've like combined it all now together into this
right.
really.
Yeah. So, I mean, I am exactly where I should be. And it took me about 13 years to get there, even after I started practicing dentistry. But to be able to combine wellness and the field of dentistry into a niche where I can talk about nutrition. And I mean, there are even studies about the effects of exercise on, on your oral health and on the microbiome. And so, I just love being able to have those conversations with people and talk about supplementation, and I get to talk about it all because it all contributes to oral health, which is so important for overall health, and it's underestimated.
It's
When you
funny.
say you look at your clients as a whole and as
Yeah.
like maybe you put on your thinking hat and you try to look at them as a whole. And
Mhm.
so would you call that like you're trying to solve a puzzle
Yes,
type of thing?
there are, yes, absolutely. I see really, because of what I do and how I approach it and my philosophy, I see a lot of, most of my patients are dealing with multiple health issues. I mean, these are not individuals who, by and large, are like healthy and thriving. These are individuals who come with a long list of diagnoses, and some are, pretty black and white, cut and dry, where it's like, this is what I have. This is, these are my issues. This is my diagnosis. But a lot of them, they don't know. It's like a mystery, right? It's like, I don't know why I'm so X, Y, and Z, whether it's like fatigued or, whatever the symptoms are. And they're going down the list, and they're seeing, all of the doctors and all the different, specialties, and they're trying to figure out what is the root cause of this, of my illness or of my symptoms. And could some of that be, stemming from the mouth? Is it the root canals in my teeth, right? Is it any previous extractions? Do I have cavitations? How do I know if I do? If I do, could it be causing this? um it's just, and so I really try to take the time with them and kind of unpack some of that and help them figure out, like, and I love that, I use my cone beam a lot, which is it's a three-dimensional, image. Andy, did we take a cone beam on you? Do you remember? It was like you got to see your skull.
I
um
didn't see it. So if you took it, I didn't see it.
okay, I'll have to go back and check, but I take a lot of those on patients who have a lot of questions, and they're kind of trying to get to the bottom of things, because that really does show a lot. I get to look at, people's sinus cavities, and, the architecture of their nose and their nasal passage, and we get to look at, um, look for any hidden infections from, root canal teeth and that sort of thing. And I mean, it's pretty crazy what I've seen on some of those scans that, people had no idea. It's like, oh my goodness, well, that explains that, and so that I use, that a lot. But then also it's just talking through, some of their symptoms, and like I said, trying to connect some of the dots. I mean, I will be the first to say there are so many people out there who have these mercury fillings in their mouth, and people are really not aware of all the different symptoms that mercury toxicity can cause. And again, those symptoms are going to be different for each person. And the list of symptoms for mercury toxicity is very, very diverse. And it can be everything from, fatigue, because it strips you of ATP production, to, dizziness and, mental health. I think mercury affects you on every level. And so you can have just a wide variety of symptoms from that. And so then we get into the topics and the discussions of genetics. Because a lot of how these things affect individuals really depends on their genes. And it's like, do you have any polymorphisms or any genes that have kind of got, maybe you're not blessed with a good set of genes. And so we start to dive into, do you have the MTHFR? Do you have slow comp gene? And how does that affect your detoxification and your methylation? And so, should you have laughing gas if you get a filling, or should you not? And if so, how will that affect you? Right. So a lot of that is, also just looking at the genetics and figuring out, I mean, and to be clear, I don't look at their genetic profile. I'm not trained to do so, but I know enough about dirty genes to know how they can affect you overall. And they predispose these individuals so that, the effects of dentistry, the materials we put in people's mouths, they're just a little bit more sensitive. These are sensitive individuals because they don't have these robust genes. They were given a set of genes that just predispose them to be chemically sensitive. And so they're going to feel the effects of things more. And so we just have to tweak things a little bit more and be more mindful of that.
The individualized care that you talked about.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
What have you noticed when it comes to like jaw and vagus nerve, swallowing, like all of that? Have you noticed a like jaw shape causing some issues with any of those things?
Absolutely. I mean, individuals who have smaller or more narrow, I should use probably the word narrow is probably more precise, but individuals who've got, either a very narrow set of, upper and lower jaw, or a mandible or a lower jaw that's more retruded, posteriorly positioned, they really struggle. They really struggle because an initial glance, when I look in their mouth, 8 years ago when I was a dentist, my first thought was, oh, your tongue is so big. Like, why do you have such a big tongue? And it's just like taking up all the space in your oral cavity. And it's, but now I know better. It's like, oh no, your tongue is not too big. It's just your arch is too small to accommodate that tongue. And so we need to expand your lower arch to make room for that tongue. So it's not, the tongue lays over your teeth if you don't have enough room for it to sit within your teeth, and that overlap of the tongue muscle resting on your lower teeth is not favorable and can lead to some undesired effects. In addition, it gets like trapped back posteriorly a little bit more, and so it adds to the congestion in the back of the throat, making it harder to breathe and sleep well. And so I look a lot at jaw shape and form, and half of my practice is in the development of jaws in kids, and teens, and even adults. We can have an impact on jaw structure. And so, Andy, I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about I don't want to put you on the spot, but so we do this, we do this palatal expansion, or this expansion of the jaw, to open up and create more space, and to increase the airway, and so that people can breathe and sleep healthier and feel better, because oxygen like trumps everything, right? So and so I do look at that. I'm just really passionate about that as well. So
Yeah. Well, I listened to a podcast years and years ago, like right when I first started listening to podcasts, really. And it was about that. It was about the jaw. And why is it getting so narrow so quickly? Like, why is our jaw shape changing so much evolution wise, I don't know the answer. They didn't really know. They said it was food possibly, but that's
yeah, it's completely food.
is it?
You know,
We just don't eat tough
a
enough
heart.
stuff.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
it
Everything
lack
we
of
eat.
minerals?
Well, no, if you look at and I'm so guilty of this, because I didn't know what I know now. I didn't know that back then. When my kids were babies, I mean, I handed them the baby food pouches, the ones that you squeeze,
Yeah.
and then just like the liquid food, shoots out the packet, and then
Yeah.
all the puffs that, would just dissolve. I mean, horrible, horrible. But what we need to be doing is we need to be stimulating those, we need to be using our muscles of mastication from an early age. We need to, because those muscles of mastication are attached to the bones. And if we develop the muscles and stimulate those muscles, it's no different than doing a bicep curl. If we do the bicep curl, and we increase the muscle mass of our bicep, and it's attached to the bone, we get this good bone density and good bone growth. And so it's all about, the Western diet has really become this diet of soft food, and we don't eat from the ground anymore. There's these raw foods that, that some cultures have to, they have to work hard to eat their food, and so I do encourage parents of young kids to introduce those solids as soon as they can. And now we've got these, chew oral appliances, chew toys that, we can use instead of pacifiers, to help stimulate that jaw growth.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I just had that conversation because someone asked me when they should start solid foods. I said, well, how about when they have a tooth so they can eat the solid food, like not to mash it up so that they can eat it. I said their body's not ready for it yet, even though that they can get it down the throat, get it on the hatch. Like that doesn't mean that this body's ready for it. So yeah, I definitely said the teeth thing, and then it made sense to me that they need to be able to chew their food.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Also interesting. Okay, but I mean, we could talk about the dentist thing all day, but we also want to talk a little bit about Maria, the person, the woman, the mother, the wife, the So tell us a little bit about that, about who you are as a woman.
That's a good broad question. So,
Very broad, very broad.
very broad question, but I love, and I have to say, kudos to you guys. I think that was the one thing that struck me the most when Andy, after you sent me that message to be on your podcast, I had so much fun, snooping on your guys' podcast and, just reading the titles, of the podcast and some of the guests that you've had on in the past. I saw that question come up over and over again, and I love how you differentiate, right? Like, I think that's so important, and I love that you guys do that. It's like, yeah, like, you have this career. It's what you do. It's certainly not, always who you are, entirely anyways. And there's so much more to women than, what they show up to do every day. And so I just love that distinction, and how you ask that. I just think that's so beautiful. And I'm so glad that you guys do that. So, when apart from dentistry, my passion, and I think, for sure my kids um, and one of the draws into the profession of dentistry for me, this is just completely personal, is that I really truly believe that this was a career I could do and do well while still maintaining this, balance, between motherhood, and career. And so, and from early on, when my kids were little, I just had very strict, boundaries around work, where it was like, I would, and for most people, it made no sense. And that was okay. It made sense to me, but it was just like, I'm going to work this amount, these days a week. And, when I'm not at the office, I was, at home with my babies and raising them. And I just always wanted them to know that they were, more important, than my career. And so I wanted to make sure that my time and my energy and my efforts were first and foremost on them. And then if they would, I'd put them down for a nap, and I'd run to the office, for 4 or 5 hours. And I kind of structured and built my work life around my family life, making sure that I had, I listed, these are my priorities. This is what most important. And then you kind of fill in the pieces that way, right? And work always fell a long second to my kids and to my family. And so, and now that I, have my own practice, I am done at 2:45, 3, so I can rush out the door and pick up my kids, because it was really important for me to be that one to pick them up and say, how was your day at school? Like, I want to hear about it. And so just that balance, it's just, motherhood is my kids are my everything, and I didn't like coming home at the end of the day from my job exhausted, having seen, 30 to 40 patients a day. And I just had nothing left in the tank to give them. It's like, they kind of got my leftovers. This was when I was an employee, at my father's practice for so many years, and he just had a different practice model. So, I was just seeing so many more patients, and I just would come home just so spent. And so that's, one of the reasons I left his practice to start my own, because I wanted to see fewer patients. So I could come home and feel like I had more energy to, to chase my kids around, and they weren't just getting, the leftovers. So I don't know. I like to chase them all around. My son is, currently living in New York, and he's 15. He left the house last year when he was 14. He spent a year playing hockey in Pennsylvania, and now he's in New York. But, so now it's like, I look at my schedule, and like, when can I go? Like, next week I fly out to go see him, for 5 days. So that's important. And, have always every year been a team mom on my daughter's skating team. And so I travel with them. It's just like, I have this FOMO real bad with my children. And so it's like, I just don't want to miss a thing, like I'm like all in on all their stuff. Like, my husband and I were like we're the coaches of the team, and we're the team moms. And it's like, I don't know how many teens coming over tonight for a Halloween party, but it's just like, I love parenting, and I just love being all in with them. And so, that's just the biggest, part of who I am.
Uh-huh. What do you what does like a morning look like for you? Like, do you have I don't know, a routine at
I
all?
do. Yeah, I have a great morning routine. My husband and I, the alarm goes off, and the first thing we do is we both have the Bible app on our phone, but he is always the one who presses play. We're reading through the Bible in a year, so we're on a read through the Bible in a year program, and really excited because we're like getting close to the end. We have like 2 months left, and then we'll be able to say we read through the Bible in a year. So the first thing we do is we hit play and we listen to audio Bible. We listen to whatever passages are assigned to us for that day. And it takes a while. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever done a read through the Bible program, but I mean, you have to do a good chunk a day in order to get through it. And so that takes up a good chunk of our time. And then we pray together. My husband will pray, and then I'll pray. And, it's just such a gift to be able to pray with your husband. I know not a lot of wives can do that, or a lot of couples do that, but that's always just been like something that's kept our marriage really healthy, is praying together. Um, and so we'll pray for our children and, all the things for the day. And then after that, I have this like red light panel that's on a stand with wheels, and I grab that and I pull it over to my bed, and I have it situated so that I can be laying on my bed, and I can just roll over this long red light panel, and I hit on, and I lay under the red light for 20 minutes.
Nice.
And I sleep on a PEMF mat, right? So like I have a really good high quality PEMF mat. And so I'm running a program on my PEMF. I'm getting my red lights. And then I get up and I do my makeup, and I'm listening to worship music, praising Jesus. And I just have such a great way to start my day. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Love it.
What's your mat? What brand did you go with?
Um, good question. It starts with an S. I want to say
Yeah,
I
that's
want to
okay.
say it's the Sedona mat. I actually think it is Sedona. Some guy out of New York. I don't know. My parents got one first, and so they did all the legwork for the research. I mean, because I know Beamer is a good mat too. But I ended up going with this Sedona company, and yeah, I like it. I mean, it's just I like things. I'm such a biohacker in nature, but I love the biohacks that I love the most are the ones that are like so easy to do, like lying on a mat while I'm sleeping. Like that's
Yeah.
so easy for me. Like I can do
Right.
that, right? Like,
Yeah,
so you do what you can, but
100%.
yeah.
Andy's got a Beamer. I laid on hers quite a bit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Probably should have
Yeah.
left, but it sounds lovely to have just on your bed every night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
Especially when
One more quick question, and then you need to go pick up your kids because yes, but
oh my God.
what do you do for fun?
Oh, great question. Well, so apart from because my kids are my fun, I mean, like they're so
Yeah.
fun. Just they're
Yeah.
funny and they're fun. But like apart from them, if it's just me, I love to go to the gym with my husband. We go lift together in the mornings, and so on the mornings that I don't work, we go to the gym together. We like to play pickleball together. I think that's fun. I love learning. I just love learning. And so it's like every day, whether, and I know a lot of people do, but it's like with the like what did we do before podcast? I don't even know. Right? Like what did we do before? Because now we can just hit a button and get like, all this information while we're driving our car or, doing the dishes or whatever. So I whether it's like reading a book or listening to an audiobook or listening to a podcast or doing some research on whatever topic it is, at the end of the day, it's like, I got smarter today. Like I learned this, I learned something. And I just love to expand my knowledge base on anything, health and wellness related. I lead a Bible study every other Thursday night where, a group of ladies come to my house and we learn about the Word of God. And that's really fun, So, yeah, stuff like that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. Like this has been really nice to
Yeah. Thank you guys.
put a face to you too. That's really great.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you for having me on. I think what you guys are doing, is such a good thing. And I am really excited to learn more about your retreat that you guys, offer. I know Andy, we were able to ask you a little bit when you were in the chair, but it's something that is like on my list of things to do is just to kind of learn more about that aspect of what you guys do. I have to ask you, why did you name your podcast? Um,
0-10.
Yes.
Josie.
Want me to answer? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of numbers people in general. Like, so we've been watching for numbers as signs, angel numbers specifically. And then I don't know, when it came down to like figuring out the name of our podcast, it's like we just like the sound of it and we like the numbers. So some people might think it's like 0 to 10 or whatever, like, you know, like there's a reason for it. And no, the numbers, like just 0 is a wholesome number. And it just felt like a really, wholesome authenticity, imperfectly perfect, that kind of thing. So that's why it went, and it has a ring to it. There is a little bit of a ring to it. So
Yeah, absolutely there is. Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah.
wasn't sure if what it meant, but keep doing what you guys are doing. I think it's so awesome.
Thank you.
We think it's awesome that you took time out of your day to be with us today so we could learn a little bit more about you. And so thank you so much. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
And the name of your business again, real quick before we go. Root Cause Dentistry.
Well, actually it's Root Cause Dentistry and Airway Center.
Oh,
I tweaked the name about 4 months ago. I
okay.
bought, this laser that helps, get rid of sleep apnea and snoring. And so with my services that I do to expand, the palate, and now with the laser services to shrink the tissue, my dream and my vision is to really grow the airway aspect of my practice and just really be the airway expert for the people in the community and, the Midwest at large. So I'm excited for the future and what's to come.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to say one more real quick
Yeah.
question. Are you biological dentist are the only one in the state?
I'm not the only one in the state. No, I believe there are 3 of us.
Okay.
There's one down in Richardson.
Oh,
There's one in Fargo, and then there's me. Yeah, so there's 3 of
so
us.
you're the one in the central part of the state. And so yeah, and you had mentioned earlier that I am a client. I have an expander. Love it. I love it. It's so I talk about it a lot. I think I mentioned it on our favorite things podcast, didn't I, Josie?
I
Yeah,
think
I did. So yeah,
So
I'm a fan. So
that's
anyway,
awesome. That's
but
great.
we'll keep talking about it.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much. Have
Have a
a
good.
great day.
Yep, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.